Welcome to the Simple Doesn't Mean Easy podcast. We are here every week working at simplifying things in our lives one day at a time, one simple step at a time. I'm your host, Michelle Visser, and this episode is getting a little personal. I'm going to be sharing, with his permission, about our weekend a week and a half ago now. Wasn't a good weekend. And I spent a lot of time with Bill in the emergency room. And the worst part is all of it could have been avoided. So we're going to talk about that today. He very much wants me to share this story with you so that others, if it happens to you, you understand what's going on. And also so others can figure out ways to avoid this happening. Um, Before we dive in, let's see. I want to ask you to go ahead over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in and leave a review. It means a lot. It helps me so much, guys. It really does. And um, I miss seeing the reviews over there. I haven't seen any a little while and I miss hearing from you guys. So please take a second and do that. But first, I'm going to quickly tell you about a way to actually save a whole lot of money. If you have been considering getting an air purifier, I actually have considered it myself, but it dawned on me the candles that I love to be burning all the time, they are much cheaper than an air purifier. And they don't need anything like changed or filters cleaned. I love these candles. They're made from beeswax, which means they literally not only smell great and are pretty to burn, but they bring toxins. They draw them out of the air and get rid of them. It's like magical in a simple candle, and you're supporting a great small business at the same time. Go check out soulyrested.com/non-toxic, NONTOXIC, for not only these candles, which are the only ones that I ever use now, but also some other products that I absolutely love that are completely non-toxic. Soulyrested.com/non-toxic. Also, um, you might have noticed, maybe you didn't, in the intro, I said that we are here every week. I didn't say twice a week or every Monday and Wednesday or every Wednesday and Friday or whatever it is, because I never could quite figure it out, first of all. Um, I just was not able to get into a routine with it. I think the problem is that this time that I started the second episode a week, I started it right at the height or the beginning of summer and didn't anticipate how crazy this summer would be. You know what? Like, I never anticipate how crazy summer will be. You just don't. Plus, here in New England, we have such a short season that is so gorgeous that it's really hard to not try and squeeze every single thing you can into every minute of every nice day. So that's one thing, one reason I'm going back to just our regular episodes, not the mini 5-minute ones every week. It's fun doing those. And I really want to get into a routine where I can do them on a regular basis. We've tried twice now, different stages. But when I got to the point that I realized, wait, I don't even know what day this is supposed to go up. And I realized I missed a week, and I stepped back and I told myself, you know what? With these other two huge, exciting projects that you have going on, Michelle, you need to just you need to have permission to decide what needs to go to the back burner for a little while. And I would never let the podcast go to the back burner because this is like the center of all I do. I love meeting with you guys here once a week, and I love having the guests on. And it's like the core of who I am. I would never cut back on the podcast itself. But that second mini episode, I can easily put back to the back burner again until I can figure out exactly how I'm going to make that work. Um, but the two big projects, I thought about telling you about both of them, but I can't. I just can't. I have to keep one quiet no matter how excited I am. So I'm going to keep that one to myself for a little while longer. Um, but needless to say, it is sucking so much of my time for a very good reason. But it's really making me have to reprioritize some things. And I can't wait till I can tell you what it is. The other project actually just officially opened and launched today as I'm recording this. When you catch this, it'll be like 4 or 5 days into the Wellness Collective being live and open. And what I'm sharing with you today, Bill's story, actually has totally changed and given even more meaning to what I'm doing in this project. It's called the Wellness Collective, but that's just the name of my um, contribution, my corner in this platform. It's a really exciting platform that is pulling together, I believe it's 21 or 22 experts in their fields in all different categories that relate to simple living, real food, homesteading, raising animals, preparing food, preparing meal plans, like so many really great things that all of us need a little bit more in our life. But they actually asked me to join in a few months ago, and it took me this long to get on board because of my other project going on. And I'm really, really excited. The timing of it, it's unbelievable that with what Bill was dealing with, and I was just in the starting phases of pulling together the Wellness Collective. And it really made me tweak how I was doing it. And, I guess I just need to start at the beginning instead of I don't mean to be vague at all. So I think the beginning would be to start with Bill's story. So last weekend at 6 a.m., I wake up to a really hard slap across my toes. They were under the sheet, and I just thump on my toes. And I startled, like, what's going on? I was sound asleep. On a Saturday, I would never be getting up at 6 a.m. And I look over, and Bill is standing on the other side of the bed. So to this day, he and I both are like, how did you even reach my toes? Like, that's the first question. Not an important question, but he was standing on his side of the bed, kind of towards the head of the bed. But I instantly knew something was wrong. But my brain couldn't wrap around what it could be because he didn't look sick. He didn't even really necessarily look too tired. Tired isn't the word that I would say, but very dazed, very like blank stare and confused, very confused. And he just started mumbling things like, I'm not sure who I am. I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't feel like I'm myself. And just saying things like that. And I instantly hopped up and right away asked him some questions and found out that he didn't have chest pains or pains on either arm, which was my first thought. Is he having a stroke? Is he having a heart attack? But he said, well, my neck hurts. And I thought, well, that maybe could be related to stroke or heart attack. I don't know. But the fact that a part of his body was hurting, that had me concerned. And he was just acting so dazed and confused. So I asked him more questions, and I found out that he had been, at least he thought, he wasn't really certain of anything as he answered my questions, but he thought he had had diarrhea and he had been up quite a bit in the night with his stomach upset. So I thought, well, maybe he's just extremely dehydrated. But the neck pain had me definitely concerned. And I had actually not too long ago read some things about early precursor signs of heart problems. And that's one thing I love about my line of work, that I get to read these really cool things or have these guests on that are talking about these things that I maybe otherwise wouldn't dive quite so deep into. But, if I'm going to talk about certain topics here on the podcast, I will always go deeper and even, have more information behind the talk than I necessarily share here. So it was probably for one of the podcast episodes. I'm not remembering why, but I have been reading about these precursor things. And a few of the things he said definitely were on that list. Like, I knew that. And I also just knew that, and I probably, honestly, I don't know if I would have known this, but I knew from reading that the sooner you get medical help, it really genuinely matters. And some of these signs that he was showing are, it's showing stress, but it's not showing, like, he could be totally pre heart attack or pre stroke. But these signs are warning signs. And if you get to medical attention and they do what is needed, you could literally eliminate the heart attack or the stroke. So I knew I wasn't going to play around with this because of the way he looked, because like the way that he hit my toes. I mean, it's weird I'm coming back to this, but that's so not him. Like nothing about that was him. I'm like, that's just weird. And then his neck pain. So turns out we found out later, by the way, the neck pain was totally just related to what he had been doing the day before, which was moving, I believe it was two, maybe three cords of wood that he had delivered. And he spent the day, he actually had the day off from work, which I was super excited about because I told him, if you can in the summer, he's his own boss, he runs his own shop. If you can do 4-day weeks for just a month or two, you need it. You need the break. You work so hard and it's beautiful weather. Like, take the day off. We can take kayaks out on the lake. He doesn't like to paddleboard. I would say paddleboard. We can do something relaxing and fun, or even if you just want to sit back in the air and watch TV all day. I mean, if that's what you want to do, just take the day off if you can once a week. So I was so happy. This was the first Friday that he did that. But on Thursday, he had a buddy deliver cords of wood and he chose to spend his day off moving wood. And I'm like, that is not what I had in mind. But sadly, because of my other project, I had tons to do myself. So I kind of didn't give him any hassle, didn't at all say, honey, take breaks, just do half the day worth. I just was focused on my work and he had his thing and it made him feel good that he was getting that done. So I just let it go. I wish I had intervened a little bit and said, hey, take a break, stop, let's go do something fun. But I also have my nose to the grindstone. So, but all that moving of wood is what had made his neck hurt. And it was just, sore muscles. Of course, I didn't understand that at the time, that it was unrelated to the other symptoms. But so I told him we're going to go to the ER. And he didn't even fight it, which makes no sense. Again, wasn't him at all. And on the way there, like I could tell that he was feeling stressed. So I didn't really talk about his symptoms anymore or anything. I was just kind of making conversation. But a few of the things that I said, I thought, that's weird. He's not responding to that because that's not like him to not respond to that. So I think I'm going to cut to the chase and explain what it was that we finally determined he was suffering from and dealing with. And then I want to circle back to this whole story where I just paused it and starting with when we walked in the ER waiting room door and really just share with you my thoughts after. I'm always talking about big pharma and big medicine. And you would think that that experience that morning would have been one of those times where I would be like, as much as I like to avoid anything that I can related to pharmacy and related to big medicine, I'm the first person to say when you need it, I'm so grateful that they're there, right? Well, this morning was not like that for me. And I actually want to share some insights that um, really made me pretty much stick to my guns to what I'm always saying, honestly. But let me explain what he's dealing with and how that instantly impacted the wellness collective that I was putting together because it's really it really is a pretty cool story. Okay, so what he actually was suffering from was transient global amnesia. And like I said, he wants me to tell you guys about this. So if it happens to you or someone you love, you're not as totally shocked, confused, and stressed as I was. Um, it is often brought on by severe stress. Dehydration can also have something to do with it. Turns out that he had both things in high measure the day before. And he realized that he probably didn't drink any water at all the day that he was moving the wood, which is insane. I can't even imagine. Um, and we had some personal, really deep, stressful things that had him very, just extremely sad and concerned. So the combination of those two things literally led to him totally having amnesia. And it was freaky. And still, when he looks back, it really freaks him out. So as far as the stress, I just started thinking so much about what stress is in our lives. What can we eliminate? What can we reduce? And of course, when you're working on the big projects like I am, you kind of can't avoid the deadlines and you can't avoid all the work, right? But we can absolutely make it requirement that we stop at least a few times a day and we do the things we need to relax. You have to, because otherwise your body, it just gets to the point that it shuts down and it literally takes your memory from you for a short amount of time if that's what it needs to recover from all the stress. So, um, even just talking to like minded people, even just being in community, having each other and talking about all these things makes a huge difference. So I knew I wanted that to be part of the Wellness Collective, to really have a lot of times that we can be together as community, have some live chats and just talk about what's on our mind and share our things we're learning and bring questions in that we're answering. So that's definitely part of it, and it definitely helps with stress, just having community. Also, our church family is huge for community. I don't talk about my faith in many places on my platform very often, mainly because it just doesn't necessarily relate. But because it is so core to who I am, it absolutely comes up sometimes. And I'm never going to not share because, well, that's not related to my platform. If it's on my heart and it relates in some way, it's going to come up because it's who I am. But it's not ever like the focus of what I'm doing on any given day on the podcast or on Instagram. But in this platform, in the Wellness Collective, we're actually going to have a little corner called Soul Fuel. So it's fuel for our soul to encourage us and build us up in the faith. And folks who aren't interested in that, they're there for the real food and the recipes and the information about fresh flour. That's cool. You don't need to ever step in that little section of it. But if it's something that you would like to have a community of like minded folks with faith and beliefs like that, then there's this place for you. And again, it's going to help reduce stress. We should have been exercising, both of us, but especially him, and he'll admit it. Like he's like, well, I'm on my feet all day. I don't want to exercise. I'm literally on my feet all day as a mechanic. But it's different. Sure, he is getting in some steps, and it's better than a sedentary job where he's sitting all the time for sure. But it's not ever rising his blood pressure. Rising his blood pressure. Why did I say that? It's not ever raising his blood pressure. It's not ever, getting his heart and body to just work harder. And it's something we all need to be doing every day, some sort of cardio activity. And even just if it's a regular movement. So that's actually going to be part of the Wellness Collective. I talked to a fitness instructor and he was on board. So I'm excited that he's going to be in there occasionally, maybe once a month, helping us, giving us some suggestions for what that movement could be, giving us different options and levels. And then we're all going to have a place where we can encourage each other and we can set goals for ourselves and hold each other accountable. Accountability is so important. So now Bill and I are working on that after dinner, always taking a walk, trying to make sure we encourage the other one. When one of us doesn't want to, the other one encourages them. Um, and of course, food, of course, has a whole lot to do with it. And I've shared on here many times that Bill's just not quite on the same page as I am, and that's okay. But after this, he's closer. He's definitely closer to my page of let's do more real food. Let's get rid of seed oils. Let's get rid of the ingredients we can't pronounce, the endocrine disruptors. Let's just focus on real food. And he's, how should I say it? He's more open to something not tasting exactly the way he would want it, whether it's his electrolyte drink or, the main course for dinner or the whatever it is, like the snack that I make him, the crackers that I make. Like they're not wheat thins, but they're darn close and they're really good for you. So he's willing to be okay with that. Like, okay, it's not all going to taste like the junk food. It's going to have some little quirks that aren't exactly the way I would want them. Maybe it won't be quite salty enough. Maybe it'll be a little thicker than the thin crackers that I like, but it's going to be good enough. And I know that it's healthy. I know that it's going to help me on this path to better health and no more global transient amnesia. So, um, he's still, I'm pretty sure I'm always going to buy him potato chips till the day I die because he loves his potato chips. Um, so there's still going to be some junk in the house. I'm sure it's not like we're both eliminating it all the time, but he's definitely closer to my thoughts on this now, and it makes me really excited. And we'll see if we stay there, if he stays there. But again, the Wellness Collective, that's part of it, is again accountability and having like-minded people in there that we're talking about these things. We're talking about ingredients, we're looking at recipes and looking at how we can tweak them to improve them. We're talking a lot about fresh flour in the Wellness Collective. Bill is just stuck with fresh flour. He doesn't need to talk about that. But in the Wellness Collective, we're going to have something called the Grain Reboot, where we're talking about what grains are better than others for certain things, how to choose your wheat berries, all kinds of tips and quirks about fresh flour. And I even have a friend who is working towards, he really, really wants to add grains back into his diet, but the current processed flour that we have available to us completely does not agree with his digestive system. And he cut it out a long time ago, but he wants to work at introducing fresh milled real flour back into his diet and see if he's able to do that. So we're going to work through that together. He came to me and asked me if I would like to do this with you guys, on my platform somewhere. And I'm like, absolutely, that would be perfect for the Wellness Collective. So this was all this big snowball, right? What happened to Bill, Charles coming to me with that, me working on figuring out how to design the Wellness Collective and what should be in there. So the Grain Reboot became one part of the Wellness Collective, and I'm super excited about. I'm excited for Charles. Right now, he's working on a 30-day cleanse before we even introduce the first grain because we want to do this right, and he wants to know with certainty how any ingredient impacts him. So I'm going to bring you guys along, and Charles is excited to be sharing this with you, and you guys are going to see his results live, in the Wellness Collective. So as they're happening each week, we'll just kind of keep you updated. So that's exciting. I think I think that's everything that I put in. Yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to tell you about that. But I guess I should tell you if you want to know about this. Here I am blabbering on and on, but I never told you where you can look it up. If you go to solelyrested.com/well, WELL, that explains to you exactly what I'm talking about with all of this stuff with the Wellness Collective that I'm so pumped about. But it also links you directly to the whole platform where, like I said, there's 22 experts in there, and it shows you more about that and what it's like. For all of that is literally so much. Like there's workshops going on every day in there from a different expert. There's lives going on every week from different experts. There's so much. And I think most people like myself, I personally plan to always also create a printable, a worksheet, or the one for my live I just did today was a 9-page set of worksheets, like pretty intense. Um, but I plan to always do that. And a lot of the experts are doing that in there. So you also have all of that, like the printable information that you can take away, put it in notebooks, have it to refer to. All of that is $19 a month. It's not a typical membership kind of platform. So I hate saying it's a membership per se, but I mean, essentially that's what it is. But you have access to all 22 of us for the $19 a month. But guys, I'm really excited about this too. Just today started through August. So if you catch this in the next 3 weeks, you can take advantage of trying it out totally free, like zero cost for 30 days. Watch all the workshops, dive in, meet all the experts, and find out what it's all about and know if it's something that will benefit you. So go to solelyrested.com/well, WELL. Please check it out. I'm not kidding you. It's definitely not a typical kind of membership thing. And it's literally a community of experts. And there's so much good here. I was going to say it is kind of overwhelming how much is there. But on the flip side, if there's just one or two things a month that you're able to check out or dive into, oh, it is so worth the investment. And everything else is still going to be there for you to go back to whenever you have the time to check it out. So It's a great thing. Solelyrested.com/well, WELL. Let's pause for a second. If you grow any food at any level, you really need to know about cover crops. They are fast growing plants that are planted in late summer or fall in the areas of the garden that have stopped producing well. Behind the scenes, they are hard at work improving your soil's health, adding important organic matter back into your soil, and improving the very structure of the dirt, making it more fertile. In my ultimate guide to cover crops, I break down all the kinds. I tell you my personal favorites. I tell you when and how to terminate your cover crops and so much more. And it's all totally free. Solelyrested.com/cover, COVER. Also, I have a special limited time discount code there for you just for the next few weeks. So you can save up to 20% on your order from True Leaf Market, which is my go-to for all things cover crops and a whole lot more. In fact, I share with you all of my favorite things that I always stock up on from True Leaf Market and my ultimate guide to cover crops as well at solelyrested.com/cover. Don't miss this discount, guys. It is only there a short time. solelyrested.com/COVER. So, do you find yourself sacrificing quality in the name of non-toxic, especially when it comes to personal care items, beauty products, soaps, lotions, all that good stuff? Well, guys, those days are over because I absolutely love everything that I use from hearthandhomesteadstore.com. Go to solelyrested.com/soap, SOAP, if you'd like to see all my personal favorites. These are items I use on repeat that I would not have, that I would not have in my home. And these things, every ingredient is all natural. They are truly legit, clean products that do what they promise. They are such high quality. Go to solelyrested.com/soap. So I want to get back to Bill's story to just kind of, I really don't want to bash on the hospital. I don't want to bash on big medicine, but so much of it just reconfirmed what I've been thinking for a decade now. I was almost sad. I really was hoping to walk away with a different story. I was really hoping to walk away and be able to tell you guys, you know what? There are places in our lives and times in our lives that big medicine is amazingly wonderful. And there is. There absolutely is. I know that. I mean, I had a daughter facing a horrible neurological syndrome. It was literally, I mean, it almost took her life. And if it wasn't for big medicine, she absolutely would not have survived. But now she has a good life and a regular life. So I absolutely do not think that we could survive, do okay without big medicine. There's always a time for it. There's always an appropriate place for it. But this particular morning, they did not give Bill what he needed in any way, shape, or form. And it was so discouraging. So we walk in the waiting room. There's zero people there, zero, because it is probably 6:40 on a Saturday morning. There's one lady behind her little plexiglass. No, there are two. They were chit-chatting behind their little plexiglass. And I walked up. It was obvious I was a very concerned wife. Obvious. And it was pretty obvious that he was really out of it. We explained the symptoms. We gave him his information. I thought, okay, they're going to take us right back. Thank goodness there's nobody here. Like, I'm really, really concerned. At this stage, I think he maybe is either having a stroke. I didn't think he was having it yet. What I was concerned from what I had read was we're in that very small window that he needs medical attention. It can change everything. It can change the outcome of this. It can mean he doesn't have a stroke. So I'm like, well, I'm so glad there's nobody here. They're going to rush us back. I mean, here he is, a middle-aged, overweight man having signs of heart attack and or stroke. Like, they're going to rush him right back, right? No. I actually get upset still thinking about it a week and a half later, but about 20 minutes into it, because Bill was saying things like looking around and looking out the window and saying, how do we get here? And where are we? I thought, "Oh my word. I can't let this go on any longer." So I very politely walked up to the little plexiglass and she moved it for me and just stared at me. I said, "I was just wondering if you think it would be much longer. I'm really concerned. I mean, he's a middle-aged guy, he's overweight, and he's definitely showing potential signs of either heart attack or stroke. And I'm really concerned because he's confused. He doesn't understand where he is. This is not like him." Well, she said something like, "He's checked in and we'll get to you." I thought, "Oh my word." So at that point, I texted a good friend who's in the medical field, and he said, "Unfortunately, Michelle, this is the reality of big medicine." And this is someone in the medical field. And he said, "Unfortunately, if you keep pushing it, it's probably going to be to your detriment. It's probably not going to help. They know you're there. You're in a place that if something does happen, he didn't say this, but meaning if Bill literally goes into a stroke, like you're in the right place. So try to relax and know that they will get to you. It's just going to be on their time." So another 25 minutes pass and they finally take him back. And they tell us, "Sorry, we don't have any rooms available." Which that's literally what they said. I'm sure it's what they always say. "Sorry, we don't have any rooms available. So you're going to be right here." And they put him on a stretcher right inside the door, right in the hallway. I never said a word at any point to anybody to question that, but instantly I could look around and I could see empty rooms everywhere. Like the fact that he said, "Sorry, we don't have a room," was so blatantly so not true. Now, maybe he could have said, "Sorry, we don't have a room cleaned and ready." Maybe he could have said that, but they sure looked clean and ready. They sure all looked prim and proper and the beds all made. And so I don't know. I don't know if that could have potentially been because I stood up and maybe they saw me as complaining and maybe it was kind of a little punishment. I don't know. Maybe it was just easier for them in some way because they didn't have to clean the room when we were done. Maybe that was it. But there were a few people there in rooms. One of them was intoxicated. Like you can hear all the nurses talking. You can hear what's going on. And it was that was her problem. She was intoxicated. Um, and in the room beside her, there was someone who had taken his wife's medicine. Now, granted, it was oxycodone, so they were, I guess, pretty concerned. But it's not like either of them like had blood shooting out of them or needed stitches immediately or anything like that. Like it was, I don't know why we couldn't have been in a room too. But that's beside the point. That's the smallest concern I had of the day. Um, so then they came up and they tried to give him pills. They just scanned it and they opened him up and they started to put him in a cup to hand to him. And I was like, "Well, what are those?" And she rattled off something. And I said, "Well, is that his everyday daily medicine?" Because by the way, the hospital is connected to his primary care doctor. So they did have his records easily available. And she said, "Yeah, it's his daily medicine." I said, "Oh, you don't need to like scan that or charge us for it. I mean, we don't have like regular health insurance. We have a share insurance plan. I'm not sure how it's going to work or how costly this visit will be. And we don't need that." See, I knew from the time my daughter spent 18 days in the emergency room, I knew the cost of one pill was insane because that's what they do. They mark up the medicine, and that's where they make some money to be able to run their facilities. So but literally, I had the pills in my hand, like in his prescription bottle, labeled with his name. And I said, "Oh, no, you don't need to give him that. He has it right here." And she started rattling off about why that was a problem and why that wasn't safe for him. And I said, "Well, I would like to very politely just decline those." And she looked at Bill and he said that, "Yeah, we don't need it." So she huffed off about that. Um, and and then they told us that he was going to go for tests, so that was good. They did the tests that they should do, so that's very yeah. I'm very glad we went. I'm not complaining. I'm glad we got these tests. I'm glad until we got the results back from the test, I still was thinking maybe he was going to be having a stroke that afternoon. So it was very good to get back the results from the EKG and the chest X-rays and the CAT scan and all of that. And after he went to all these different tests, and they did let me tag along, which was very nice. I kind of thought they might tell me, "No, you stay here." But they let me walk around the hospital with him, which him being in his confused state, it was really, it was good that I could be beside him. And he got those all done, came back to the bed in the hallway. And they told us, I'm going to bring the neurologist over on the whatever, whatever screen. I'm like, well, that's weird. Does she mean like a TV? Sure enough, she rolled a TV over. And right there in the middle of the hallway, right inside the door, getting into the emergency room, the neurologist was on the screen talking to Bill, saying that she had looked over his test results. And I'm thinking, wait, does this mean we're not going to see a doctor? Is this our doctor appointment? Turns out, yes, that's exactly what it meant. So she told him she looked over the results and he was not having a heart attack. He was not having a stroke. So at that point, at least I went, okay, that's good to know. And by the way, I didn't tell you, during the time that he was getting his test done, his memory was coming back and he was saying things that I went, oh, that's totally you, you know? And I asked him some questions. He's like, yeah, I do remember this, but no, I don't remember that. So it was definitely coming back and he was feeling better and he was looking better. His eyes weren't looking as glazed. So the combination of all of that, I was feeling much, much better. Um, and she said that from everything she could figure, looking at all the results, he had transient global amnesia. And she explained what that was. And she said, if you've had stress recently or if you were dehydrated, those are often key components that lead to it. And instantly, like instantly, I just went, wow. I was totally relieved. And I was certain this was what he had because those two things. I was thinking about the day before with him moving the wood, and I was thinking about the stressful item thing that happened that night. And I knew that's what it is. He's not having a heart attack. His heart's fine. He's not having any health problems. He just had too much stress. So, um, okay, then she asked the nurse, because of course she's on a TV screen. She asked the nurse to do a lot of things like have the patient move his eyes right to left and have the patient stick his tongue out and do that. And the nurse, by the way, had already done almost all of these, but she didn't tell the doctor that. She just went ahead and did it because, of course, the doctor's on the screen asking her to do it. But the crazy thing was the doctor really couldn't see anything because the screen was behind the nurse's head. So as Bill is responding and moving his eyes and stuff, the doctor's just relying on the nurse to tell her if the response was good or bad. But the nurse had already done it. So like the whole thing seems so weird and ironic. And especially because the one thing that the neurologist did ask the nurse to do that had not happened yet is to use some sort of cards. I don't know what they were called. And the nurse pulled out this pack of cards and started flipping through them. And Bill said what he saw on the cards. But the neurologist couldn't see the cards. So I guess, again, she was just taking the nurse's word for it that, okay, those are all the right answers that he's giving. But I mean, she's a nurse. And on the screen's the neurologist who's the true expert. I'd really rather have the neurologist there. If we're going to go through all these motions, wouldn't it be good to like have the expert seeing the results in Bill's face and in Bill's voice and all of that instead of the expert being at home, sitting in their office and being on a TV screen, like the whole thing. I didn't get it. I didn't ask any more about why we didn't see a doctor for real. Because I didn't really start getting really upset about it until after, and the more I thought about it. But um, so then the nurse comes back and says, well, we would like to have you to stay over. This was Saturday morning, by the way. We'd like to have you check into the hospital and stay over until Monday when we can do an MRI. And Bill right away was like, whoa, what? Why do I need an MRI? Like he got kind of panicked, like I have to stay here? Like what's wrong? And first of all, he didn't need that panic right then, right? He didn't need the confusion. They could have explained this in a better way. And then she said, oh, we just want to do that to rule out other things. I'm going, I don't need them to rule things out. I'm like really confident from what the neurologist explained. I'm confident in what's going on. And I said, well, if we decide that we want an MRI on Monday, couldn't we talk to his primary care and schedule it on Monday? And she said, well, sure. I said, okay, then I think we'll take that route because I don't think we want him to be staying in the hospital where he's uncomfortable. He would hate it. Like, maybe there are some people that would do better than others, maybe, but he would hate it. He would do horribly. He would be so stressed. He'd be so worried about what's going on around him, about what the sounds are, what's wrong with the person beside him in the other room, and what's going on at home, and how he didn't close up the shop correctly, and how this needs to be done at home, and like on and on and on. Staying in the hospital would not be relaxing for him. And we just found out that what he needed more than anything was rest and relaxation. So, did they have his best interest at heart, or were they thinking about the dollar signs? Because it costs a lot of money to stay in the hospital overnight for 2 nights while you wait to get an MRI done that you could have done on your own. Anyway, so thankfully, Bill was at this point really starting to understand about the amnesia. He seemed to be totally remembering everything that had happened for the past hour or so of his morning. And he was feeling confident too, as I was, that he did not need to stay for an MRI. So the doctor kind of wasn't really, or the nurse, sorry, wasn't really happy with that answer. And she said, well, okay, you have to understand that you're doing this at your own risk, and you have to guarantee us that you will be in contact with your primary care first thing on Monday. And I'm like, I don't think we have to guarantee you anything. I'm pretty sure we have the freedom to walk out the door and go home without promising you these things or writing them in blood or anything. And then she said, and the doctor prescribed aspirin. It's already waiting for you at your pharmacy in blank, fill in the town. And um, so pick that up and take one a day. It could potentially cause nosebleeds, but it's a good protocol, what we recommend for if you have whatever, any kind of heart issues, and it's going to keep your blood thinner. And I'm thinking, but we ruled out the heart issues. But he has nosebleeds pretty often on his own and he hates them. And you did mention to us how it just really thins the blood and has a lot of other bad results for some people. Like, you already called it in? Like, I was just so confused. Um, so we did not pick up that prescription. And why, by the way, does aspirin need to be a prescription? Somebody making money on that? But here's the worst part. Here's the worst thing. I've done some reading since about stress and how to have just overall better health and avoid the stress. And the things that they really should have been asking him about, I mean, we all know this anyway. I didn't have to do reading. We know this. They should have been asking him about what caused the stress and given him suggestions about ways he can relieve the stress, given him some warning signs that these things, if they're happening, are because you're too stressed, and here's how you can respond and bring your stress level down. And they should have been asking him, what do you eat on a daily basis? How much fiber do you have? How much protein do you have? How much do you move your body? Do you exercise? Like, none of that was asked. Absolutely none of it. Everything I've told you has pretty much been the complete conversations that we had with any medical personnel of any kind in the ER in the 4 or 5 hours that we spent there on Saturday morning. Well, make it 6 hours if you count the time we waited in the waiting room. So we walked out feeling thankful for the tests and thankful for the confidence that it was not his heart or a stroke. And then we spent the rest of the day in the evening sun on the boat on the lake, relaxing. And it turned out that was exactly what he needed. And then in the days ahead, we talked about some exercise that we can do on a daily basis. We talked about some food things, some snacks he's going to try to replace other snacks with. And we're taking baby steps, but we're working towards an overall better, healthier outlook for Bill. And we're very excited about it. And all of that's going to be part of the Wellness Collective, which makes me that much more excited. It has him pumped as well, because that means what he went through was absolutely not purposeless. It had very much a purpose to improve his life, to teach others who might experience transient global amnesia to understand what's happening and not panic, and to um, to help build out the Wellness Collective and help other people in all these areas that we're going to be working on with Bill. So there you have it. That's my story of the last weekend and our trip to the ER and what it led to for conclusions for me about Big Pharma. So there you go. That's my story. And I'm sticking to it. But thanks for listening, guys. And on Instagram, when I shared, I don't remember if I waited till Sunday to share. I might have waited till Monday to share, honestly, because I really wanted to make sure Bill was okay with it. And he told me he very much wanted me to. But when I shared, so many of you reached out. Thank you so much for your concern, your love, your prayers. And I've shared a few times since that he's doing really well. And I thank you for letting me put all this in one place for you too, because a lot of you wanted to know more details, and this is way more than I can give, in a DM and or in an email reply. So thank you for coming along, listening to our story, and I hope that it encouraged you. I hope that it maybe gave you some insights in ways that you can improve your or someone you love's overall health and wellness. So please go to soulyrested.com/well, WELL. Take advantage of the free 30 days and see what this is all about. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz, a lot of great stuff going on, and I really want to see you there. Soulyrested.com/well, WELL. So thanks for listening, friends. And remember, it is easy to forget how blessed we are to live this life. So enjoy the simple, everyday efforts. It's not easy, but it's a good life.